Hello everybody, Michael Strickland here, giving you guys a update on my case here. Today is August 8th, 2019. For those of you who don't know, I'm the news journalist who was attacked by a gang of thugs when I was out filming a protest a few years ago, and then I was the one found guilty of multiple felonies for defending myself against them. Well, they get to be considered the innocent victims. You can go on my YouTube channel to see all the videos and from what had happened and all the fallout and the legal drama that's ensued since then. Some of you may know that I was called in to a short notice meeting with my probation officer last month. I believe that was July 10th. This was during the fallout from what happened with Andy No when he was attacked by a gang of thugs on the street. In a similar situation to what had happened to me, except he didn't decide to defend himself. He took the beating. No police anywhere to be seen. So Andy was sent to the hospital. None of the perps have been identified because they were all wearing masks over their faces. So you can imagine how vocal I've been about all of this. So 2 days after that Andy No incident, City Hall here in Portland received a bomb threat. And I had commented on the Portland Police Twitter page, hey, here's someone who might be a suspect. You might want to look into this guy. Being the very large guy with the lengthy criminal history who led the mob to attack me, who has a history of issuing bomb threats. He's done time in federal prison for that. He's also, from what I understand, he's a suspect in 2 or 3 at least other bomb threats here in the area. I'm like, hey, look into this guy. So for that, my probation officer called me into a short notice meeting, and she wanted me to sign this piece of paper saying that I would refrain from mentioning this person's name. She's claiming that this is psychological abuse of my victims. Now remember, I didn't know or care who this guy was until he decided to consciously, deliberately lead a mob to physically attack me in the streets. I wouldn't care who he is had that none of that ever happened. So my probation officer presents me with that sheet of paper. She listed all these definitions of psychological abuse on the paper, and I don't think I had done any of those. And so I asked her, you know, which exactly one of these do you think that I've done? And she points to the very last line on the paper that says something like, these are just some of the definitions of psychological abuse. There could be others. Ironically, one of the definitions on there is using one's size and strength to threaten and intimidate another person. That's exactly what this very large guy did to me on the streets when I had to act in self-defense against him. So I said, I don't think I'm going to sign this. I'm not going to give up more of my First Amendment rights. Again, those of you new to my case and whatnot, I've had numerous First Amendment infringements done upon me throughout this whole ordeal, as it relates mainly to freedom of speech, freedom of press. So she said, all right, then we can go see the judge about it. So she handed me this citation, and it said, you are ordered to appear in court on August 14th, 8:30 a.m. You have violated the terms of your supervision by... and then it's blank, doesn't say anything. In the weeks that have gone by since then, I have, her and I have been emailing back and forth, mostly me emailing her, just to get clarification on what exactly this is about. If this is considered a violation of my probation, by mentioning the guy's name as a suspect in a crime, and that if she was going to be seeking jail time for me or extra punishments or whatever. So, and I also had requested whatever documents she planned on submitting. Whatever affidavits, supporting documents, evidence, blah, 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 blah. She wrote me back saying that this hearing was to clarify if me mentioning the name of one of the guys who led the attack on me, me mentioning his name is a violation of my probation. Is it considered contact? Well, no, it's not considered contact. My comments are not directed towards him. They're directed, in this case, to the police. So then my probation officer went silent. I had emailed her a few times saying, hey, still asking for the documents, and I made multiple requests for a copy of these definitions of psychological abuse. She refused to give me a copy of that at the meeting, and I asked for it. So she has yet to give me a copy of the psychological abuse. I didn't hear anything from her for weeks about what documents she was going to be filing. So last week, July 31st, there was something filed on my case. It's listed on the computers that you can access in pretty much any courthouse here in Oregon. New report has been filed. It's 2 pages. The computer would not let me access it. It could let me access almost everything else in my file. So then I go to the counter there at the courthouse and I say, hey, I'm wondering if I can get this report here that's been filed on my case. And I show them my ID and everything. They tell me, nope, can't see it. I can't see the report that's been filed on my case. And I've been asking for this for 2 or 3 weeks at that point. So finally today is when my probation officer sent me the report. And so recommendations. In regards to the matter before the court, the officer would like clarification regarding the original order stating no personal contact with the victims. Probation is requesting if posting about and or using the victim's name on social media constitutes a violation. Additionally, it is probation's belief that when Mr. Strickland addresses the victims by name, it is a form of indirect retaliation, and probation is concerned that this could possibly lead to further violence. Therefore, in addition, this officer respectfully requests that a modification to the original terms to include no offensive contact of any kind with the victim, to include any contact or mentioning of the victim's name through a third-party contact or social media. Now, I have not had any contact with this guy since I tried to get away from him when he was attacking me. I don't want to have contact with this guy. I hope I never see this guy again. Again, things that I've said about him are factual in nature. It's newsworthy because this guy makes himself out to be a public figure. He's always putting himself in the news, doing interviews, doing podcasts and whatnot. Well, a lot of what I do when I mention him is because people are asking me about my case. And so I'm just providing, again, factual information about what happened to me. I have referred to him as a violent multi-time federal felon, which he is. He's been violent towards me. He's been violent towards other people. Other people have come to me to voice their concerns about him and his behavior because they know what I've been through with him. He is a multi-time federal felon. He's been in and out of federal prison 3 times. So when I mention his name, it's not at all directed toward him. It's directed towards either the general public, because I'm bringing about information that had happened about my case, newsworthy information, or someone's asking me specifically about my case and what happened and whatnot. And I don't think I've violated anything. I don't think that what I've done constitutes any sort of contact. It's certainly not intended to be any sort of contact. It's not intended to be any sort of harassment. It's not intended to result in other harm towards him. I'm trying to watch out for other people who might fall victim to his conduct, and who also might have to defend themselves against him, which I hope no one else has to do, because this guy apparently has all sorts of top cover from the police and the courts to wreak all kinds of havoc on the street and face no consequences. So that's when this turns into being less about me and more about the safety of other people. So throughout all of this, I've also offered compromises throughout this entire thing. I've said, okay, how about this? I'll make a good faith effort to use more discretion before using the names of these people. It's a handshake deal, not formal, not something I'm signing my name to, but it can be a loose agreement for us, a good faith effort. Which is why I'm not mentioning his name in this video. I still want to show the courts and show the probation officers and show law enforcement that I'm putting forth a good faith effort in all of this without signing away my First Amendment rights. So yeah, I am going to see the judge on Wednesday of next week, August 14th. It's 8:30 a.m. at the Multnomah County Courthouse, room 538. That's a different room from where the trial had taken place. It's the same judge. He's just moved into a different room. I've had to give up a job that day. Those of you who have been following the case and all my plight, I'm basically banned from doing a lot of the work that I had been doing. I'm banned from being a news journalist for the most part. So I do other video production, weddings, ads, things like that. So believe it or not, I had actually gotten a call about 5 or 6 weeks ago to actually work a wedding that morning on a Wednesday morning. It's kind of odd, I know. I'm serious here. Anybody who doubts me, I can show you the freaking screen capture. So I've had to since cancel myself for that gig. I'm losing out on hundreds of dollars that I would have otherwise made during this thing, in addition to all of the other restrictions that have been put on me as far as making money. For those of you who also don't know, I'm at least partially disabled. My left arm was shattered a few years ago, and it's hard for me to do manual labor. So this whole hearing coming up next week, it might be a whole bunch of nothing. It might be a whole bunch of a lot of things. I don't know. Again, they've been a little shady. They've been non-communicative, non-responsive. Considering the antics of District Attorneys Kate Molina and Todd Jackson, I have to sort of assume by default that they're planning some sort of ambush, because this is what they've done throughout the entire ordeal to me. They've done this multiple times, and the judges reward them for doing that. You know, they present paperwork that I never knew even existed, that a lot of times is patently false, and the judge allows it. So they're getting rewarded for unethical, shady conduct, which of course only leads to more unethical and shady conduct. Another thing that I find interesting in this is, evidently, law enforcement is monitoring my tweets, my online activity. They're spending their time, resources, manpower, money on monitoring a guy who hasn't harmed so much as a fly, who was harmed himself and tried to avoid a confrontation. Meanwhile, how many unsolved crimes are there? Every day on the police Twitter feed, I see, today's the, X year anniversary of such and such's homicide. Well, instead of spending their time, money, and resources on investigating those, they're going after me. So Portland police and the courts and the DAs and the probation office, they're perfectly fine with letting murderers, rapists, child molesters, armed robbers wander the streets free, as long as it means going after me. So if they toss me into jail because of this, I don't think they're gonna, but you never know what kind of shady antics they'll do. You never know what stories they're gonna make up. They could toss me in. It could be a long time. Could be several months. Could be several years. I don't know. I hope not. If they do toss me in, then that means they're gonna have to release violent people in jail. Same thing with allowing murderers and rapists to walk the streets. They're going to have to let other people out because the jail is at nearly full capacity. So, if they toss me in, then I'll spend my time trying to help other people, I guess. There's a lot of people in there who have legitimate mental problems, addiction issues. When I was jailed, when all of this originally happened, I spent some time having some good conversations with a few people in there who have been in and out of the system several times. And, it's nice for them to be able to talk to someone who doesn't suffer from addiction issues, who hasn't been in that world. I can offer sort of a fresh perspective. And two of the guys that I had chatted with at length in there, they have not had any criminal things happen to them since then. I check up on them every now and again in the court records. They've been clean as a whistle since then, so I can't help but wonder if that was due at least in some part to any help that I was able to provide. So, I might be banned from posting videos, might be banned from going on Twitter. So if you see me go dark after August 14th, that's what happened. Check the Oregonian and the crime section, because Amy Green and Maxine Bernstein, they're court reporters there. They seem to get all this inside information before I do or the rest of the public does. That might be because the newsroom director's sister is one of the judges, so they probably get information leaked to them. Regarding the appeal, there's no news from the appeals court. It has been 10 months now since the oral arguments. You can go back and look at some of my other videos for that. There's been no news, and I have no intention of giving up the fight until my name is cleared, until this whole thing is overturned at whatever level it needs to go to get overturned. I'm hoping that it'll be sooner rather than later, but I plan on fighting it for the long haul. So with all of that said, I'm bad about begging for money, but people tell me I need to do it more often. So I have started a defense fund, Strickland Legal Fund on PayPal, stricklandlegalfund@gmail.com. I'll put a link in the description and probably in the comments there. Now, I mean, I have to pay for more lawyers now. I'm banned from working. I'm too disabled to do other kinds of work. I'm doing what I can to get by, doing what I can to survive. I'm able to pay rent. I'm able to eat, even though I have been getting from food banks and homeless shelters a lot lately. But yeah, I just can't. I have some money. I can afford a little bit, but I mean, now I got to pay for more attorneys to look over all of this thing. And so I would constitute all of this to be psychological abuse towards me that these people are doing. Anyways, if you want to help out, it would be greatly appreciated. If you don't have any money and you want to help out, at least share some information about what had happened to me. The more support that I have, the better. Again, thank you, everybody, and hopefully you'll be able to see me post after August 14th. Take care.